Welcome back to our Future AI podcast, Paper Review. Today we're going to be diving into some really fascinating documents. These are the UK's AI Opportunities Action Plan for 2025.
Basically, the UK has just laid out their grand strategy for becoming, well, a global AI superpower.
A global AI superpower.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about keeping pace with the AI revolution, it's about leading it. In fact, the plan actually states that the UK wants to be an AI maker.
An AI maker, not just an AI taker?
Exactly, not just an AI taker.
Interesting. Okay, so what does that mean? What does that actually look like in practice? What's in this plan? What's the big picture here?
Well, I mean, the plan is incredibly ambitious. It's basically a detailed roadmap, and it has three core goals. First is laying the foundation for AI to thrive. Second is changing lives by integrating AI into every sector.
Okay.
And then third is securing the UK's future by becoming like a homegrown AI powerhouse.
Oh, wow. That's really comprehensive.
Yeah.
What would you say is like the most interesting or surprising part of the strategy?
You know, honestly, I was really struck by just how bold they're willing to be,
Okay.
even potentially controversial to get there.
Oh, okay. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So, for example, they're actually considering creating AI growth zones.
AI growth zones.
Yeah, so special areas that are specifically designed to attract companies that are building those massive data centers,
Yeah.
the ones that power AI.
Okay.
They're also proposing like a global talent search. Essentially, they're going to headhunt the top AI minds and basically get them to relocate to the UK.
Okay.
And maybe most surprisingly, they're even considering regulatory reforms that would make them even more friendly to AI innovation than they are now.
Wow. That's a lot to unpack. So I guess let's start with the kind of the foundations. What are they doing to create the right environment for AI to flourish in the UK?
Right. So, I mean, they start with a pretty clear-eyed assessment of the UK's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
They acknowledge that they've got a strong research base, they've got a vibrant startup scene, and they've got leading AI companies. But, I mean, they also recognize that they run the risk of falling behind.
Behind who?
Well, giants, like the US and China in terms of AI advancements.
So it's like a classic aware of the threat, but confident in our ability to overcome it kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads them to have a major focus on building robust AI infrastructure. Think of it like building the highways and power grids of the AI age.
Oh, okay.
They need massive computing power to train, like the next generation of AI models and support all those future AI applications.
Makes sense, but can they just, magically conjure up supercomputers? What's their plan for, like, actually acquiring this computing power?
So they're proposing a three-pronged approach, which is actually quite clever. First, they want what they're calling sovereign AI compute.
Sovereign AI compute.
Yeah. And this basically means publicly owned or controlled supercomputers that can be kind of strategically deployed for national priorities, things like AI research or ensuring critical services, making sure that they have access to AI, even during like market disruptions.
So it's like a national stockpile of AI firepower that they can direct wherever it's most needed.
That's a great analogy. Then there's what they're calling domestic compute.
Okay.
And this would be privately owned and operated within the UK.
Okay.
And the goal here is basically to make the UK so attractive to AI companies, to investors, that they'll just build their data centers, build their AI infrastructure right there. That will create jobs and it will boost the economy.
I see. So it's almost like they're hoping to lure in the big players in AI and then create a whole ecosystem around them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then finally, they're looking at international compute.
International compute.
And this would be access through partnerships with other countries.
So collaboration.
Yeah, collaborating on research, sharing resources, and just basically making sure that they're plugged into the global AI network.
Okay, so 3 different paths to the same goal.
Yeah.
Ensuring that the UK has the computing power it needs to be a leader in AI.
Right.
But how do they actually plan to make this happen? I mean, it all sounds kind of abstract so far.
They do have some concrete actions that they're laying out. For starters, they're committing to a 10-year investment plan for AI infrastructure, so they're in this for the long haul. They also want to dramatically expand the AI research resource, which is known as the AARR. Think of this like their national laboratory for AI.
Okay.
And they want to expand this by at least 20 times by 2030.
That's a huge increase.
Yeah.
What are they going to be doing with all that extra capacity?
So the plan is to create mission-focused clusters within the AR. Imagine bringing together the top researchers in AI, tons of data, and very powerful computers,
Yeah.
all dedicated to solving like specific challenges.
Yeah.
Well, things like developing AI for healthcare or tackling climate change.
I see. So it's not just about having the computing power, it's about using it strategically.
Exactly. They want to make sure that this investment translates into real-world breakthroughs,
Okay.
and actual benefits for society. They're also proposing a really interesting idea that's inspired by agencies like DARPA and AREA. They're suggesting appointing what they're calling air program directors.
Air program directors.
Yeah. And these people would have a lot of autonomy in allocating resources.
Okay.
They'd essentially be like AI venture capitalists within the government. They would be empowered to take risks
I see.
and back high potential projects that could lead to major breakthroughs.
So it sounds like they're trying to kind of foster a culture of innovation and agility,
Yeah,
almost like having a Silicon Valley startup within the government.
exactly. And then they're also getting kind of creative with how they're attracting investment. Remember those AI growth zones we were talking about?
Yeah, those special zones.
Yeah. So those are designed to incentivize data center development by, maybe streamlining planning approvals, providing access to clean energy, potentially even offering other incentives.
Oh, so it's like they're creating special economic zones specifically for AI.
Yeah.
Do they give any specific examples of where these zones might be located?
Yeah, they actually mention the Colum Science Center as a potential pilot zone.
Okay.
It already has existing power capacity, available land, and a history of scientific innovation. So they're essentially saying, hey, come build your AI data centers here and we'll make it as easy as possible.
Makes sense. But with all this focus on building, these really powerful AI systems, aren't they worried about, the potential downsides, things like the environmental impact of these massive data centers or, the risks of cyber attacks?
Oh, they're definitely not ignoring those concerns.
Yeah.
The plan actually addresses the need to mitigate sustainability and security risks. They're exploring ways to support the development of more energy-efficient AI hardware, and they're even considering working with the UK intelligence community, to ensure the security of this really critical infrastructure.
So they're trying to balance kind of the excitement of AI innovation with a healthy dose of like caution and responsibility.
Absolutely. They want to make sure that AI development is not just fast, but also sustainable, secure, and ultimately beneficial for society as a whole.
Okay, so we've kind of covered the infrastructure side of things.
Right.
But as we all know, AI needs data to learn and grow.
That's right.
So what's the UK's strategy for unlocking the data that will fuel their AI ambitions?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting.
Hold that thought. We'll dive into the world of data and AI in part 2 of our deep dive into the UK's AI action plan. Stay tuned.
Data is the fuel that powers AI. Imagine trying to train a self-driving car without millions of images of roads, traffic, and pedestrians. It just wouldn't work.
Right, it's like trying to teach someone to cook without giving them any ingredients.
Yeah.
So how's the UK planning to, make sure that they have the right data, the right kind of data to feed their AI ambitions?
They're taking kind of a two-pronged approach, basically unlocking existing data and then strategically shaping the data that's collected in the future. They call it the data library approach.
A data library.
So they're starting with the public sector, and they're creating something called the National Data Library, or NDL for short. And this is going to be a central hub for high-impact public data sets that can be used for, AI research and innovation.
So instead of data being like scattered across different government departments, it'll all be in one place.
Yeah, basically.
Easily accessible for, anyone who wants to use it to build AI applications.
Precisely. And they're not just talking about any old data. They want to start with at least 5 high-impact public data sets that have, clear economic and social value. Yep. Well, think of things like healthcare records that could be used to train AI models to diagnose diseases earlier, or transportation data that could be used to optimize traffic flow in cities.
That makes sense. But what about like privacy concerns? I mean, a lot of that data is really sensitive. Are they just going to throw it all out there for anyone to use?
That's definitely where things can get tricky. I mean, they are very aware of the need to balance innovation with privacy and ethical considerations. So they're looking at a few different approaches. One is using synthetic data.
Synthetic data, is that like fake data?
It's sort of like fake data. It's basically artificially generated data that mimics the statistical properties of real data, but it doesn't actually contain any personally identifiable information.
Okay.
So imagine like creating a synthetic data set of healthcare records. It would have all the same patterns and relationships as the real data, but you couldn't actually trace it back to any individual patient.
Well, that's pretty ingenious. So they can use this synthetic data to train AI models without compromising anyone's privacy.
Exactly. It's still early stages, but it has a lot of potential. They're also exploring ways to de-identify existing data. So that's, removing any information that could be used to identify individuals.
So it sounds like they're really committed to finding ways to use data responsibly and ethically,
Yeah.
even as they push the boundaries of, AI innovation.
Absolutely. They see data as a national asset that needs to be carefully managed, and protected. But they also recognize the incredible potential that data has to drive progress and solve some of society's, biggest challenges.
Okay, so they're unlocking the existing data. What about shaping the data that's collected in the future?
Right. Well, that's the other half of their data library approach, right? So they want to be more proactive, more strategic about what data is actually collected in the first place, anticipating the needs of AI developers and researchers down the line. So, for example, they're building on the success of the UK Biobank, and that's collected genetic and health information from hundreds of thousands of volunteers.
So they're basically saying, let's not just wait for the data we need to magically appear. Let's go out and collect it ourselves, making sure it's, the right kind of data for the AI applications we want to build.
Exactly. It's a very forward-thinking approach that could give, the UK a pretty significant advantage in the global AI race. I mean, imagine if they could proactively collect data on how people interact with new technologies like self-driving cars or virtual assistants. That would be incredibly valuable for training AI models that are, safe and effective.
Yeah.
And user-friendly.
So it's like they're building a library for the future, filled with, all the information that will be essential for developing the next generation of AI.
And here's the really clever part. They're not just limiting themselves to public data. They also want to kind of incentivize companies and research institutions to curate and unlock their own private data sets.
So they're trying to tap into kind of that vast amount of data that's already out there, but it's currently locked away in private databases.
Exactly. They're even considering offering things like data bounties or other incentives to encourage companies to share their data.
Oh, that's interesting. It sounds like they're willing to get pretty creative to get their hands on the data that they need, but it also sounds like it could get pretty messy. How do you ensure that this data is shared responsibly,
right?
And that companies aren't exploiting their users' data for profit?
That's a great question. And to be honest, it's not one that the plan fully answers. They talk about developing guidelines, and best practices for data sharing, but it's still pretty early days.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate this really tricky terrain.
Yeah, it sounds like they're trying to strike a balance between, encouraging data sharing while also protecting privacy.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of tough needle to thread.
It really is. But I think it's the right approach. We need to find ways to unlock the potential of data without sacrificing our privacy or our values.
Okay. So we've talked about, infrastructure, we've talked about data, but what about the people who are actually going to be building and using these AI systems?
Yeah.
I mean, does the UK have a plan for making sure that they have enough skilled AI professionals?
Yeah. So that's kind of the next piece of the puzzle, right? And it's a big one. So they recognize that having the best AI talent is crucial for success. And they're not just talking about, a handful of elite researchers. They want to train tens of thousands of additional AI professionals.
Tens of thousands?
Yeah.
By when?
By 2030.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Do they really think they can pull that off? I mean, and what are they doing to attract and train all these new AI experts?
Well, that's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so they've got the computing power, they've got the data, but what about the brains behind it all? How are they planning to build this army of AI experts?
It's a multi-pronged approach, really focusing on attracting the top global talent and then also, of course, developing homegrown expertise.
Okay.
So think of it as like a two-pronged attack on the AI skills gap.
Okay, let's break that down. So how are they going to attract like this international AI talent?
Well, they're not messing around. They're actually planning on launching a flagship AI scholarship program. And this would be similar in scale and prestige to, other programs like the Rhodes Scholarship
Wow.
or the Fulbright program.
Yeah.
This program would be open to both UK and international students, and it would combine, the financial support with the mentorship, the industry connections, and even placements in like leading AI organizations.
So they're trying to create this like pipeline of top AI talent from around the world,
Yes.
bringing the best and brightest to the UK.
Exactly. And they're not stopping there. They're also going to establish like an internal headhunting team to actively recruit top AI researchers and professionals from other countries.
It's like a special ops team for AI talent acquisition.
It really is. And they're going to be offering, competitive salaries, research funding, other perks to lure these individuals to the UK.
Wow, they're really pulling out all the stops. But what about developing the kind of the homegrown talent? Like, how are they going to make sure that, UK citizens have the skills that they need to thrive, in this AI age?
Right. So the focus there is really on education and upskilling. They're committed to training tens of thousands of additional AI professionals, again, by 2030. And they're targeting all levels of education, from secondary school to university, even, adult learning programs.
Okay, so that's a pretty ambitious goal. What are some specific actions they're taking to make that happen?
Well, for starters, they're working with universities to develop, industry-relevant AI courses to increase teaching capacity. They're also looking at some successful models from other countries, like, for example, Canada's cooperative education system. And that system integrates work experience into, academic programs.
So they're trying to make sure that, the students that are graduating are actually graduating with the skills that, the employers are looking for.
Precisely. And they're not just focusing on those like traditional academic pathways. They're also expanding apprenticeships. They're looking at boot camps and employer-led training programs to provide, more flexible and accessible routes into AI careers.
So it sounds like they're casting a pretty wide net, trying to reach as many people as possible,
Yeah.
trying to equip them with those skills that they're going to need for this AI-powered future.
Yeah, exactly. They're also taking steps to increase diversity in the AI workforce.
Okay.
They're specifically calling out the fact that only 22% of people that are currently working in AI and data science are women, and they're setting targets to increase female representation in the field.
That's great to hear. I mean, it's so important to have like a diverse range of perspectives and, experiences in any field, but especially in AI, because this has the potential to impact, all of our lives.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, gender diversity. They're also working to increase representation from other, underrepresented groups as well.
Right. It's ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to participate in and, benefit from this AI revolution.
That's good. Okay, so they're building the infrastructure, they're unlocking the data, and they're training the talent. But what about the potential risks of AI? Things like job displacement, algorithmic bias, or even like the possibility of AI systems, becoming uncontrollable.
They're definitely aware of these concerns, and they're taking steps to address them. So what they're calling for is a pro-innovation approach to AI regulation, and that emphasizes, flexibility and adaptability rather than rigid rules.
I see.
And they believe that this approach will allow the UK to remain at the forefront of AI development, while also ensuring that it's developed and used responsibly.
So it's like they're trying to walk this tightrope between fostering innovation on the one hand, but also protecting against, potential harms on the other.
Yeah, exactly. They see regulation as a way to enable responsible AI development, not stifle it.
They're also investing in research and development of AI safety and security technologies, including, support for the AI Safety Institute, which is a leading organization focused on, mitigating the risks of advanced AI.
So it sounds like they're taking this really holistic approach to AI, recognizing that it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the people that are creating it, the values that guide its development, and ultimately the impact that it has on society as a whole.
Precisely. They're trying to create a framework that ensures that AI benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Well, it's clear that the UK has taken this really bold and ambitious approach to AI. They're investing heavily in the infrastructure, the data, the talent. They're even creating this new government entity to kind of drive AI innovation. But what does it all mean, for the future of AI and for the UK's place in the world?
I think it signals a major shift in the global AI landscape. The UK is essentially saying, look, we're not content to be just another player in the AI game. They want to be a leader,
Yeah.
a shaper of the future of AI, and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is to make that happen.
It's like they're laying down the gauntlet
Right.
to other countries, saying we're serious about AI and we're going to do whatever it takes to be at the forefront of this revolution.
Exactly. And it'll be fascinating to see how other countries respond, right? Will they try and keep pace with the UK's investments and initiatives, or will they fall behind?
It's a high-stakes race,
Mhm.
and the UK seems determined to win. But, as you've been saying, it's not just about national pride. It's
Yeah.
also about, ensuring that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Absolutely. And that's something that we should all be invested in, no matter where we live. The future of AI is not, predetermined. It's up to us to shape it, to make sure that it's a future that, we can all be proud of.
Well said. And as always, we want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on the UK's AI action plan? What excites you about it? What concerns you? Share your thoughts in the comments, on social media, or just have a good old-fashioned conversation about it with your friends and family.
This is a conversation that we all need to be a part of. The future of AI is too important to be left to just a few experts.
We look forward to seeing you at the next Future AI Paper Review.